like me, might say that this internet activity can serve as pretty nice advertising. The past year of our work has been a very interesting experiment as we explore what kind of videos resonate with the general public and also explore what amount of work we can put into this that is actually feasible. It is a very rich learning process and one that I believe is extremely important. And maybe now more than ever, with the alarmingly concerning budget cuts to education, informal education through social media not only serves as inspiration and entertainment for social media users, but also gives our researchers a platform and voice. We can spend all day in our symposiums talking with each other within the walls about how things can be different, about how we can change, how perceptions of society can be different. But the fact of the matter is, there's a whole world outside that doesn't know, doesn't care. But I will quote Martijn Manders from our soon-to-be-released documentary, statement for that, people can only care when they know. So we got up this idea for this event today as an attempt to create a community-building event with science communication at its core. In the first half, we have participants discussing their ideas related to diversity in archaeology, which we believe is a great way to get the ball rolling on discussions that need to be had within our faculty. In the second half, we celebrate just a few of the many students here who have dedicated most of their time to fascinating research, and they now have put in the effort to condense their research into a format that is accessible for everybody to understand. We have some curious audience members watching through our live stream. And they get an inside look at the activities that go on within these walls, and what better way to build a community for ourselves than with the celebration of our students and staff and some healthy competition. Our team, which consists of Davide, who will be the moderator of this event, and Julia and Isabella, who will be joining us soon when their class ends. Would like to give a huge thank you to our participants. We are very excited to hear your presentations. We would like to thank the judges who have taken time to be here. We have for the diversity competition, we have here Botini, Maya, and Lucas. And for the research competition, later on, we have Alex Kurtz, Amanda Henry, and Michael Coppers. Our final thanks is to the DARK Fund, which is the grant we received from the Diversity Committee. We have here in the faculty. So shout out to them for helping us make this possible and for sponsoring the prizes we will give up. I will now turn things over to our moderator, and we will get things going.
All right, so now we'll start with the presentations. So it's just, we have 3 participants for diversity, but unfortunately one signed out last minute, so we can start right away. And I invite Professor Dr. Marisolessi on the stage. Pronto?
Sorry, I forgot completely to mention, but it's 180 seconds, as some of you already may know, and we're going to be at the end when 10 seconds are left, so also the audience understand what's going on. I'll go with later.
Yes, I got it.
All right.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Marisol Rossi, professor of Leiden University Archaeology with a focus on late Neanderthals and the time when Homo sapiens assimilated other human population. It's a pleasure to be here today to discuss how we can boost diversity and inclusivity in our faculty and in archaeology in general. Let me start with a story. In the Academy of Universalia, the Council of Leaders made all the decisions. They rarely invited outsiders to join, but over time, the Academy struggled. Students felt disconnected, research slowed, and the Council realized something was missing. One day, a staff member named Ariana suggested, invite fresh voices. Reluctantly, the council agreed and opened leadership positions instead of offering them to their associates. Diverse perspectives were welcomed, and soon the academy thrived again, becoming a place where fresh voices were heard. At our faculty, we have 13 committees, but only a small fraction of the leadership is diverse. Out of 10 chairs, only 3 are women, 3 are non-Dutch speakers, and only just 2 come from non-European backgrounds. We must ask, how can we improve this? Take examples like Brown University in the US, which in the early 2000s conducted an open search for a new president, leading to the appointment of the first Black president of an Ivy League school. Similarly, Oxford University broke tradition of closed hiring in 2015 by hiring Louise Richardson, its first female and Irish vice chancellor. These open calls invited fresh ideas and energy. We must embrace this practice at our faculty, in archaeology, and in academia. Let's make open calls the norm for leadership positions. Together, we can create a more diverse and inclusive future for archaeology and for our faculty. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there any question that people maybe would like to ask or just start to discuss maybe very quickly the presentation given by Mr. Dr. Marisol? Anybody, I can just come with the microphone and maybe can ask a question. Or without, I guess. Or...
Maybe the microphone is not really.
Yeah, I guess. Nobody? All right, I guess then we can move on. And if you have any questions, you can always contact Professor Marisol through her email. We can now go on and invite on the stage Alex. Please join us.
Okay. Can everyone hear? All right, sweet. Let's get the show on the road. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex. I am a doctoral candidate in the Osteo Lab, and today I am going to be going over why it is important to keep gender archaeology in mind in general, but using my field of osteology as an example. So before we get started, I just want to quickly outline the difference between biological sex and gender so we all have a baseline to kind of start with before jumping into this. So biological sex, in the name, includes a set of biological and physiological characteristics that are associated with males, females, and intersex individuals. So example of this, your chromosomal makeup, gene expression, hormones, and reproductive anatomy. Gender, on the other hand, is a set of socially constructed roles, behaviors, expressions, and identities that are associated with cultural perceptions of masculinity and femininity. Now, this set of ideas varies a lot between cultures, which is why it's important for us as archaeologists to keep in mind. Gender identity is where these concepts can intersect. So it is one's personal individual experience of gender, which may or may not correspond with their biological sex. So that being established, let's go ahead and get into a quick timeline and see what the past has looked like, where we're at now, and how we can evolve in the future. So the current Western ideology linking biological sex and gender arose around the end of the 18th century as a direct result of social, economic, political, and religious shifts seen in Europe and in the United States. This relies on the idea of a social destiny in which one's gender is predestined by one's assigned sex at birth, with men being expected to perform masculinity through exploring, hunting, waging war, governing, so on and so forth. Whereas women are more constrained to feminine activities such as caregiving, housekeeping, childbearing, etc. However, multiple cultures do not fall within the gender roles that are perpetuated by Western colonialism, with multiple instances of third and fourth genders being part of these cultural norms. So since this approach to gender identity was not accepted during the initial period of anthropological exploration and colonization, these narratives have been excluded and erased from the record until recently. But where are we now? So for archaeological interpretations to be as accurate as possible, they need to be framed in lived cultural and political context alongside the osteological analysis that we conduct. By relying solely on biological sex to determine one's role in society, we are making assessments regarding the social dynamics of past societies with no basis in social theory whatsoever. This is bad. How can we change for the future, though? This is a very big topic to take on. And a significant effort needs to be put into decolonizing the entire field of archaeology, especially regarding our interpretations of past identities from the osteoarchaeological and funerary archaeological methods. Gender archaeology is making steps forward to move away from these colonialist attitudes by acknowledging that the past had diverse morphologies, just like
All right. Does anyone have any questions about this? Yes.
Thank you very much for that talk. I was wondering, could you elaborate a bit on those ideologies at the end of the 18th century that developed those ideas of social destiny? Who talked about it? Can you give us examples and how did that happen?
Thank you. Fantastic question. So a lot of these ideas stem from hyper-religious communities and also from the origins of archaeology itself. So if we look into the history of our field, it stemmed primarily, and you'll have to forgive me, I am a bit ill, so my head feels like it's full of cotton swabs right now. Our field originated as a bunch of straight white dudes going out finding cool stuff for now, right? And so the way that a lot of cultures with non-Western gender identities were first contacted and initiated with by the Western world was by a very specific set of people, like a very strict set of personal ideologies that were not particularly fun. In regards to more specifics, I have some really interesting literature on gender archaeology that I can share with you. I'm sorry I can't be more specific right now. I honestly am going to go home.
Is there any additional questions? No, that's fine. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alex, and thank you, Marie, for our two contestants for the diversity side. And I know that was very short, but we will go into our now. We'll move on with the next half of the competition. We'll give these judges time to decide on the winner, and we'll kind of get the next ones in. So feel free to go out. We have coffee and tea over there. Yeah, we will see you back in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah.
No, you'll be fine.
Everybody, thank you for coming today. Thank you for our judges. Thank you for the participants we have. We're ready to start with the research category of this event. And one note, this microphone is almost gonna die soon, but we have we have a substitution for the microphone, so in case it dies, we can also stop the thing, but it shouldn't be a problem. So, to start, first participant is Lotte, another on stage.
Sex. It is one of humanity's oldest obsessions, but in the late medieval period, it was also the reason behind the devastating epidemic that swept across Europe, leaving pain, stigma, and despair in its wake. The disease I'm talking about is syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease that can start innocently, with some red bumps and irritation, but if left untreated, it can result in painful rashes, neurological complications, and even death. Medieval medics sought desperate new ways to treat the disease and used the heavy metal mercury, which we now know is extremely toxic. High doses of mercury were administered by something called fumigation therapy, in which patients were placed in heated barrels, in which liquid mercury was put on hot coals to vaporize it, much like a modern-day sauna, but a lot more unpleasant. And this treatment method gained a feared reputation, adding to the stigmatization of the disease itself. And as a result, historical sources that talk about syphilis are scarce, especially in the Netherlands. And therefore, despite the disease shaping humanity's morality around sex for the past 500 years, we do not actually know how it impacted individuals or wider society. Therefore, my PhD research will investigate the physical and social-cultural impact of syphilis in the late medieval Netherlands. First, I will do this by looking at human skeletal remains excavated from hospital sites known to care for syphilitic patients. Following this, I will investigate treatment methods used by these hospitals by trying to identify traces of mercury in the bone tissue itself. And lastly, I will look at the social-cultural responses to syphilis from a historical perspective by looking at historical sources. And through this interdisciplinary approach, my aim is to better understand stigmatized diseases in the past and how society responded to this. And this is not only important to satisfy our academic urges as archaeologists or medieval historians. No, syphilis is a globally re-emerging disease with 8 million infections in 2022 and a rising prevalence. So therefore, it is crucial to explore the impact the disease had in past communities. And through this, we may inform modern-day discussions and encourage them about sexual health, disease stigma, and public health strategies, so that we can ensure that we will never have to be as desperate as to sit in a potentially deadly sauna. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any question that somebody would ask to Lotte about her research? If not, all right, then we'll move on. And right now on the stage,
So good afternoon, everybody. Today I will be presenting my thesis research, which is about reviving the modern style and examining the cultural context of Asian art through pigment analysis. So first, a little bit background on the modern style. This style is roughly from the 1st century BCE to the 3rd century CE, and originated in the Peshawar Valley and the Swat Valley in Pakistan and Afghanistan. While one of the first Buddhist visual styles, it is often labeled as Greco-Roman or Greco-Buddhist due to its Eurocentric rediscovery in the 19th century, its naturalistic style, and the artificial approach building on these plasticity. So my thesis will try to bring nuance to this idea by highlighting the pigments used and their role in Buddhist scholarship. To do this, my thesis will start with a literature review, followed by a pigment analysis, for which I will not only need to write tools like XRD, XRF, or radio spectroscopy, but also permission from museums and curators, as these methods are usually invasive. Additionally, all pictures from these works in their historical context may provide some basis for the pigment analysis. Which brings me to the phenomenological approach, where you see the beautiful red line through Greco-Buddhist, because while contemporary viewed as such, the sensory and emotional experience of the creators was probably different, not Greco, but Buddhist. Not only would the presence of pigments have affected this, their nature as religious objects would have also had a strong impact. This, and the fact that religion is still practiced today, makes the Gandhara style a living piece of heritage that we should approach with respect and understanding. The pigment analysis and the phenomenological approach form the basis for the final part of the thesis, which will be a contemporary reception and reintegration of the pigments, for which I've already contacted and recruited a digital artist to make digital reconstructions, which have been chosen for their ease in applying the pigments while keeping the subsurface character in mind. Finally, my goal is to have this nuanced view added to local museum exhibitions, changing the idea that the Greek world created this style instead of focusing on the idiosyncratic nature of the style. Now, I can see you guys wondering why there is a bust of Nefertiti, the Egyptian queen, in the slide. I did this experiment a few years ago already during one of my courses, where we stripped her off the plate to see what the reception would be with people, how it changed their views of this sculpture, right? So to conclude, pigment analysis offers a richer understanding of modern art, shifting perception from colonial frameworks to vibrant cultural insight, therefore adding to a more nuanced view that respects the research, historical context, and heritage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, does anybody has questions, doubts about this presentation? If you'd like to ask now, the one is here. No questions? All right. Then I invite to the stage Mika.
I'm pretty forgetful, so sometimes I genuinely have to think for a moment before I remember what I had for dinner the night before. Luckily, the human body keeps a bit of a record. Food gets converted into building materials for your cells. This means that if an archaeologist looks at human teeth and bones on a biochemical level, they can deduce what this person might have been eating during life. Specifically, stable nitrogen and carbon isotopes in collagen are examined. And this provides information on the amount of animal versus plant protein that was consumed, which plants might have been eaten, and whether the diet contained any fresh water or marine fish.
For my thesis, I am applying this method to 9 skeletons that were excavated in Koudekerke, which is a village in Zeeland, in the Netherlands. The exact dating of these skeletons is not known yet, but they were buried at a cemetery that was in use for many hundreds of years, possibly starting in the 12th century CE, so the Middle Ages and the post-Middle Ages. There were approximately 4 burial phases at this site, and the skeletons I'm using are spread out over these phases. So one of the things I'm looking at is how diet changed over time at Koudekerke. I am also comparing this site to others around the North Sea to see if there's any regional differences or similarities. But what makes this project quite special is its specific methodology. Usually, when skeletal material is used to investigate diet, only one bone sample is used per individual. But for my research, I am using 1 bone sample plus 2 different molar root samples. This is because your teeth each form during a specific time frame in childhood. The root tips of your first molars form between the ages of around 6.5 to 10.5, while those of your third molars form during your late teens and early 20s. Once they are formed, teeth do not remodel or the cells don't renew. So this means that the nitrogen and carbon in teeth capture a dietary snapshot of those specific years in childhood. Bone, on the other hand, does remodel and the cells are constantly renewing. It's not exactly clear how quickly this process occurs, but roughly speaking, bones reflect diet over the past 10 to 20 years of life. By using 3 different samples, I am capturing 3 different snapshots of each person's diet throughout their life. My thesis will therefore not only look at changing diet over time at the site, but also changes in eating habits over the lifetime of each person individually. 9 individuals is not a lot of people to be applying this method to, but part of the reason for this project was to test out this multi-sample approach to see what can be gained from it. If my results are promising, this same approach can be used on larger sample groups for future research to see how diet changed over time.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions somebody would like to ask? Now is your moment because you can get her later. Thank you. Now we have Francisco on the stage. An applause, please.
Okay, so good afternoon everyone. My name is Francisco. I'm here to present about my thesis of near infrared spectroscopy. The new light on all bones. But before I go into that, I want to ask everyone, what do you see in this image? And I know that a lot of you can give very scientific, very good answers about the graph. I personally see a snake eating an elephant. And before everyone here thinks that I completely lost my mind, let's backtrack a bit. What is my thesis about? So what I did is a spectroscopic study across the site, the Paleolithic site of Le Cotet, which is a cave site in modern-day France. And what we did is study the different bones to get the spectral data, so that we can put through a collagen prediction model, which will show us how much collagen these samples, bone collagen these samples preserve. In that way, we can put it spatially and see, for example, if I asked everyone to excavate that corner over there, and there's 100 bones there, but 0 collagen prediction. Well, if I ask everyone to excavate the corner over here, there's maybe 5 bones, but they all preserve high yields of collagen. Collagen is very important for us in modern archaeology, in modern Paleolithic archaeology. It's used in isotopic studies, in dietary reconstruction, and the big one nowadays, DNA. And this was done across the 5 layers of the site from a collection which is currently housed here in the Foundry of Archaeology. Now, the reason I'm bringing up the issue of elephants and snakes, which is not in my thesis, by the way, I didn't find any information of any snake eating an elephant on the site, or across Paleolithic for that matter, well, let me know. Because when we look at the data and when we look at the samples and excavation with our naked eyes, we sometimes don't really see what is beyond that, and what other information we can learn from applying techniques such as near-infrared spectroscopy, which is a very recently used technique in archaeology, but it has been used across other industries such as agricultural sector and the medical sector for like decades on end. So like everyone would like to see a bit beyond what we normally see and shine a light because, well, if anyone's familiar with spectroscopy, it is literally a light probe over a bone. It is incredibly non-destructive. It takes about 2 minutes till you can take it out of the bag until you put it back in the bag and you have all your data collected. And the graphs do look similar, not exactly this fabricated graph, but they do look very similar to this. And I'd like to invite everyone to think slightly beyond that and into what the world of archaeology can actually show us beyond the standard visible record. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francisco. Anybody has questions about this presentation? I see everything was very clear. All right. Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much. We'll move over to Teo. An applause, please.
Earlier this year, a friend of mine bought a DNA testing kit for Ancestry. So these online services nowadays can easily reveal where your ancestors once lived and even when they migrated. Archaeologists have long aimed to answer similar questions, but with more, interesting examples, focusing on the people who lived centuries ago, and ultimately aiming to understand why they decided to migrate. My research master thesis project it explores the migration patterns in 3 post-medieval Dutch Hanseatic cities, Deventer, Kampen, and Oldenzaal. Using structural isotope analysis, I first compare the ratios of non-local populations in the selected samples for each city. Eventually, my thesis aims to analyze the factors, so to speak, the reasons behind the newcomers to prefer one city over the others. So the Hanseatic League was a complex commercial network that connected medieval cities across northern and central Europe, from the Baltic to the North Sea. Historical records and shipwreck excavations already shown that the merchants often moved between the Hanseatic cities, either temporarily or permanently. However, the migration in Dutch Hanseatic cities has not been thoroughly studied with scientific methodology. Going to the underlying principle of structural isotope analysis, it's a bit more complicated, so I will go quite easy here. So it works like a biological label that indicates where individuals spend their early or later lives. So the structural isotope level in the environment, which primarily vary based on the age of the local soil, are observed from water, plants, and animals, and stored in human tooth animal. And because human tooth animal exclusively forms during childhood, it reflects the starting level of a person's birthplace. Therefore, by comparing the starting level and the teeth of the people buried in these cities and with local starting level, I can distinguish individuals who live in the city for their entire life and people who migrated after in their lives. So I expected to find a higher proportion of migrants in Deventer and Kampen because they were involved in large-scale trade with a better transport network, with waterways and greater economic opportunities and a better life quality, followed by these economic developments likely made these cities more appealing to newcomers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have questions about this presentation? I guess again, everything was very clear. All right, and that was the end of this last section of our event, Archaeology on the Cloud. So thank you very much for showing up. If you haven't done that, please are welcome to scan our QR code and fill out a little survey we prepared. And then I have unfortunately sad announcement to
Grace.
I'm sorry, there is some again communication. Well, I'll hold for a second. Well, yeah, thank you very much. Well, we'll do the math as soon as possible once this break, and especially when the judges are ready, and then we'll declare first, second, and third place.
Okay, it's not happening. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, okay, as I was saying before, unfortunately there is bad news. There is for some communication problems. The fighting dreams unfortunately are not happening. This year. I know everybody's very sad, but we still have coffee and tea, we can still have plenty of fun, talking to each other sober. I'm really, really sorry. These were problems we could not control. Thank you everybody for coming. We have the names of the winners ready. Everybody's here apart from now, which I think is here. All right. Well, again, thank you very much for being signed up. We had an amazing time during the presentations. So let's go to the list of people that arrived first, second, and third place. At the third place, with 120 points, we have Taewon. Now, the winner of our competition today, totaling first place is more dramatic. So I announced the second place, then there's no announcement for the first. I guess not. Wait, there are 5 participants. It was a long day, so I'm very sorry. For second place, with 121.5 points, we have Lotte. And the last one, actually, the first one, our winner, totaling 124.5 points, is Mika. Thank you very much. Compliments, and thank you for the time of the judges who spent time judging. And well, we'll give you soon the sheets. We'll contact you.
We'll send the winners an email we'll send the winners an email to organize the receiving of your prizes. Just to recap, in case anyone didn't know, third place, €25. second place 50, first place 100. And everyone else who participated can come up and you can take your sheets with, there's some nice comments on there. So if you want, you can come and get it from us up here. And that is the end officially. So thank you.